In the last Moral Oral video we did, I said we were going to cover the best Christmas ever, and hey, wouldn't you know it, we're actually going to do it! Crazy, right? But in all seriousness, it's time to cover Moral Oral's episode, The Best Christmas Ever, or as I call it, the best episode in Season 1. If you don't remember the last Moral Oral video, or in case you haven't watched it, well, it's this one. Go ahead and check it out. It's gonna add a lot more context that you might need for this video, you know? But if you don't want to, or if you've already seen it, okay, let's continue. I said that unlike the rest of the first season, there was actually enough to cover here in an entire video all on its own. And here we go. It's time to talk about The Best Christmas Ever, the episode that, in my eyes, was the real turning point for Moral Oral. Before we begin, I can tell that a lot of people are going to be typing, "Don't you mean nature? Isn't that the turning point for the show?" Yes and no. Yes, it's where the tone of the show shifted, but it's only when it shifted and committed to it. It's not the first time that Moral Oral became dark and serious. That was The Best Christmas Ever. This is the first time that the show's viewers went, "What?" And that's partially because this episode was aired first. This was not a great idea, but I've already discussed that in the last video, so I'm not going to waste any time here. So what's The Best Christmas Ever about? Well, funny enough, it's about Oral's worst Christmas ever. Reverend Putty talks about how Jesus is going to come back during the rapture and he's not going to be as nice this time, and through a complicated series of events, Oral interprets this to mean that Shapey, his illegitimate little brother, is actually the second coming of Christ. Shapey is his usual self. He screams, he's loud, he tears things apart at a moment's notice because of his uncontrollable anger, and Oral thinks this is all part of the new plan. The rapture's here, everybody, and Shapey's gonna lead it. He's gonna lead his army of angelic forces to help save the world from the heathens. This causes Oral and Shapey to just kind of be nuisances to everybody, but then their antics stop. It's revealed that Clay and Blabberta are having some severe issues, on Christmas no less. And why is that? Well, Clay and Blabberta had a big fight on Christmas Eve about Blabberta's infidelity. It seems like Clay has finally put two and two together and realized, yeah, Blabberta wasn't faithful. Either that, or he was finally letting loose all of the things he's kept pent up inside him ever since Shapey was born. Like he said, he doesn't remember conceiving Shapey. Shapey looks absolutely nothing like him. It's clear that he's in no way, shape, or form Clay's kid. Blabberta is absolutely adamant that either this is not true or not a big deal. And it's clearly for no other reason than the fact that she knows she's been cornered and has no way to get out of it. One of the weird things about this episode, at least in comparison to the rest of the show, is that Clay is actually the one we feel bad for here. Clay is the sympathetic one while Blabberta is portrayed as the monster. This is why I and a lot of people say that Blabberta is no saint. She's, I guess, by default, the lesser bad of the two parents. There's a lot up to interpretation as to how present she actually is with Oral and Shapey. But still, there's moments like this that prove she's not fully innocent. She's done a lot of things wrong. Of course, there were other things she did later on down the line, but still, we're focusing on this right now. For the first time ever, we see just how done Blabberta is with this whole marriage with Clay. The only other real glimpse of this we saw was in Maturity. That's where she and Clay were having that fight over Clay not getting enough action and her still weaning Shapey despite him being 7 years old, by the way. And yes, this is one of the many things I point to for evidence of Clay being bisexual and not gay. But here, she goes through a whole lot of different stages. First, she's mad at Clay that he's accusing her. Again, she fully knows that she's guilty, but still, she's trying to save face. Like I mentioned in the Clay video, what they really care about is their reputation, their image. They want everything to seem like they're the happy, perfect nuclear Christian family, even though they're not. So with this coming in, it's definitely destroying all that. Also, it's destroying the security that she always wanted. Then her anger turns to rage when Clay asks that infamous question, "Who's been inside you?" After that, she just shuts down. There's this really powerful moment where we see all these different shots of Blabberta staring off into space or having her eyes wide open while she's laying in her bed. There's no music, there's no sound, there's no dialogue, and it's a really haunting moment. We know she did something wrong, but still, the emotions are just so raw. And this whole thing is juxtaposed by being in between two happy, silly, fun Oral and Shapey scenes. Real quick, that is one thing I really gotta commend this episode for. It's that it balances the humor and story really well. We have Clay and Blaberta, where obviously we're feeling a whole different mix of things, and depending on how you feel about these characters and where you stand on each side of the argument, you're gonna feel different things. So I just want to make it clear this is how I'm interpreting it, okay? We're square? Cool. But it also manages to be really funny. It has things like, if the Lord were alive today, what would you give him this Christmas day? Shapey freaking out about there being no presents. Orel saying the apocalypse has come and he and Shapey destroy a manger scene. And then at the end, more specifically the last 30 seconds, that's where the story and emotion finally takes over. This is Blaberta's final wave of emotion just being outright done. She's gone gray, numb. Not the episode numb, but something very similar, actually. I'll touch on this moment a little more towards the end, okay? Right now, we gotta get to my favorite character, Clay. So how does Clay feel about all this? Well, obviously very distressed. Who wouldn't feel bad about their wife cheating on them and fathering an illegitimate child trying to pass it off as yours? But since it's Clay, we know this is gonna hit a little bit more differently than the traditional marriage. Clay doesn't like Blaberta at all. In fact, he hates her. So why is he bothered by the fact that she cheated on him with someone else? Keep in mind, he doesn't know it's stop frame yet, so he can't really process the entire thing because he doesn't know who the guy is. Still, there's that ever-present sense that he failed as a man, as he says in his speech in Sacrifice, which, by the way, I cannot wait to get to that episode. He says that his main goal is to have Blaberta, or to be a little bit more general, being a man is about having a wife and a family and to hang on to them, not for any sort of personal gain, but so that other people can't have them. To him, being a man is about getting a woman and hanging on to her and kind of seeing her as a little bit of a trophy. We could go on about whether or not this is like objectifying women or some kind of Moralton thing or a comment on traditional Christian values. I'm not going to go into that here, I'll leave that for you to discuss in the comments. But what I will say is that now we understand why Clay is so upset about this. Shapey's not his kid, and he's a constant, forever reminder that he failed. Whether or not everybody else sees it the same way as he does doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that he sees it this way, and it's gonna keep fueling his anger, bitterness, and distance towards the rest of his family, even though Orel and Shapey and then later Block shouldn't be blamed for this. It doesn't matter. To him, this thing is beyond saving. It's over. It's time to fully check out and work on that stupid dead-end job that he hates. And the strange thing is, after the fight, Clay disappears for the rest of the episode. We don't see him again until season 2. And then he admits to Orel that he only reconciled with his wife because they want to keep up their appearances and make it look like, again, they're the typical happy family. So let's really look at that, okay? Clay hates Blaberta. Clay hates Shapey. Clay knows that he'll never be rid of the constant reminder that he was cheated on, but he decided to stay in that marriage because of his image. And for no other reason. It wasn't to make Orel happy or to make some kind of stable environment for the kids. No, it was all about him and what he could gain from it, sort of as, I don't know, a power move in the community or a way to compensate himself for being wronged. This could also tie into the fact that he's the mayor of Moralton. He wants to keep being re-elected and therefore needs to keep his image up to snuff. However, he doesn't like that job, so it's kind of debatable as to whether or not that's actually a reason. And throughout all of this, Orel and of course Shapey have no idea that their family's being destroyed. Shapey's too hyper and focused on Christmas in order to think about anything like that, and Orel's blinded by his belief that the Messiah has come early. But then Blaberta finds them in the street, and she tells them that she and Clay are gonna get a divorce. This manages to shake not only Orel, but Shapey as well. Right before we got this news, Shapey was tearing up the manger scene, but as soon as she said, we're getting a divorce, Shapey runs to Blaberta and hugs him, clearly distressed. I mean, look at that face. That is not a look of either joy or anger, which just so happened to be Shapey's only two emotions. Orel's destroyed by this too, and he prays to the heavens for something, anything to save his family. But then the episode fades out, leaving us on a cliffhanger. Of course, we know later that everything was okay, but we didn't at the time. If you view the episodes in the correct order, you'll just see this as, uh-oh, what's gonna happen? Or, man, that poor kid. He really has no idea what's going on, does he? This proved to not only the audience, but also the network, even if they didn't listen, that Moral Orel could do serious stuff really well. It's compelling, it's sad, and it's also pretty haunting at times too. But it also manages to be funny. thereby not alienating what Adult Swim wanted the show to be in the first place. Let's go to the ranking real quick. These are all the episodes we've reviewed up until this point. And so far, The Best Christmas Ever is at number 2. I don't expect it to stay there, but I do expect it to be in the top 5. It's a very solid episode that can honestly rival a lot of the season 3 greats. But enough about that. Next time for our Moral Oral video, we're going to be covering Rod Putty. And I've been looking forward to this one for a long time. We've done a lot of character quests about the Puppington family specifically, and don't worry, Oral is going to get his character quest, it's just going to take a little bit more time. But now, we get to cover someone who's not involved with that story at all. We're breaking new ground here, folks, so get ready. Next month is Rod Putty, but enough about that. Let's get on to the outro, shall we? Well, folks, thanks for watching the video. What'd you guys think? Generally speaking, who do you usually side with in this argument, Clay or Blaberta? Comment below and let us know because we're always excited to hear what you guys have to say. Real quick, I'd like to thank our Patreon executive producers, Leaf Razor, Azarius, Whoopdoo, Michaela Bellamy, MD the Dude, Blackjack, and Nightingale Wednesday Nightmare. If you two would like your name read at the end of every Media Mementos video, then consider donating to our Patreon, which has a link in the description below. And now, folks, it's time for the comment of the day. Today's comment of the day comes from James Rowley. I like both ideas. Trevor's one feels like the original film's concept fully realized, whilst Billy's sounds like a great idea for an indie film. One thing I like about this video and any other How I Would Have Made It videos is that they show that any movie, regardless of the idea, can work if fleshed out. That's actually what we wanted to do. I mean, originally the Lorax one was just kind of, I hate this movie and this is what I always wanted it to be because it was really disappointing. And then of course, Lazy Town was just kind of its own thing. But all the other ideas that you guys haven't seen yet, yeah, that's basically what we want to do with How I Would Have Made It. All these different things that had a lot of missed potential. They didn't have to be as bad as they are, but here we are. So it's up to us to take matters into our own hands, but for more information on that, just stay tuned, okay? Anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time!